Hello, everybody. Here we are in Halo Reach. We're going to be exploring some maps today. Some classic Halo Reach multiplayer maps. And I hope that you can join me for a relaxing tour through these beautiful and nostalgic sights. So this map is called Forge World. Forge World. And as you can see off in the distance there, we are on a ring. A giant ring world. And the ring kind of curves off to the left in the sky. So we must be on the sort of coastline of the ring, if that makes sense. The edge of the ring. And Forge World is a massive map. A colossal map. The biggest map that's ever been in a Halo game. At least up until this point. Maybe one of the games after had a bigger map, I don't know. I didn't play their multiplayers as much. Oh, you know what? I'm sure there were bigger maps afterwards, because now that I think about it, I think like Halo 5 had some pretty huge maps. They had like a sort of they had this really weird multiplayer where it was like these battlefields and you could requisition certain items, but you had to have cards that you would get from packs. It was a really it was a bad system, in my opinion. You know, if you liked it, more power to you. But yeah, this is a huge map, and it's so big partially because it is designed for Forge, the creative map designing tool introduced into Halo in Halo 3 and refined and expanded in Halo Reach. And as you can see, I'm flying through the air right now. And I'm able to do that because we are playing in Forge mode. I thought with a map this big and all these segmented areas, I would have to play in Forge style so that we could fly around and see all that this map has to offer. So this map is segmented into these very far apart little areas. We started on that pillar of rock over there, and here we have this little three-walled kind of rectangular canyon sort of area. And the fourth side drops off into the water below. And Halo Reach, by the way, is the fifth game, if you include Halo 3 ODST, in the Halo series developed by Bungie. underneath that grass, we have this large hangar area. This large Forerunner hangar. It's got these glass panels on the walls that expose the blue pulsing lights within. And there against the back wall, there is another panel of glass. We can see rock on the other side of the glass. The rock wall. It's a little hard to see through the pattern and the reflection on the glass, but you can see the rock wall there. And this area is called the Colosseum. Halo Reach labels all of its areas, so you can see in the bottom left, it says Colosseum next to my radar. So Halo Reach, as I said, is the fourth or fifth game. I mean, it's the fifth. ODST is a full-fledged game in its own right. A bit of a small one, but it's a full game. So Halo Reach is the fifth Halo game. It came out in 2010, 3 years after Halo 3. And it is a prequel to Halo Combat Evolved, the revolutionary 2001 game that kicked off the whole franchise. And here we're in the lagoon area. This little area of water and a little sea cave with some waterfalls. And over here in the water is the island. And as you can see already, these map segments are very far apart from one another and are not even accessible by foot. And my understanding is, I read this on the Halo Wikipedia, the Halopedia. This was because a Bungie designer named Stephen Cotton, I believe, was designing these as designing 5 separate maps that were all going to share one skybox. And for convenience, for ease of design, he just put all 5 of the maps that he was working on into one development environment. So you could just freely fly between the different maps. And then, at a certain point, he said, well, what if we just release this as one huge map? And apparently, the people at Bungie told him no. And Steven said, I'm gonna do it anyways. So we've got some flowers here on the island. Some little white flowers, wild flowers, and a little tunnel entrance into a Forerunner tunnel with its signature blue lights. So, we have Stephen Cotton to thank for this very iconic Halo Reach map. I didn't get into Forge on Halo 3, but in Halo Reach I really I jumped into it. I made a handful of maps and spent many hours working on them. And Forge World was my favorite place to work. The size of it was just inspiring. The fact that you could have so many spaces to play around in. And I'll show you an area where I made the biggest map I made, the one that I sunk the most time into. Here we have some coniferous trees dotting the island, a very common sight on the Halo rings. And so, many multiplayer games took place in various parts of this map, Forge World. And in addition, many player-created maps and custom games took place on Forge World as well, because it was such a playground of creativity. Now we're on top of the island. We have a great view of where we just came from, the Colosseum over there. I love that. The little Forerunner hangar cut into the mountainside. That's a very cool image. The design of Halo Reach is very cool, very beautiful. I love the development of the Forerunner aesthetic that Bungie worked on throughout all of their games. I think in all of their games, the Forerunner architecture has a different but compelling vibe. It is all kind of a piece, you know, you feel the connective tissue from Halo CE's Forerunner architecture to, you know, the architecture in this one. It's not like they radically changed the design sensibilities, but the progression of the aesthetics and how they modified it with the increasing technological capacity that they had. I find it very compelling. It's this sort of sleek, modern, cool-toned, metallic alloy sort of vibe, but also with a clear sense of beauty. You know, it's not merely functional. The design of the architecture does have engravings and all sorts of little, design bits that speak to an aesthetic sense in the creators. And you can walk from the island through this shallow little bridge of dirt to the coastline area. Also, we're probably going to be spending the most time on Forge World of any of the maps today, just because of how large it is. So we can walk down the sandy coastline here. See the rocks. Looks like a little rock slide area. Lots of the rocks look like they've kind of slid off of the mountainside here into the sand. And off in the distance we have the silhouette of the mountains cutting across the horizon. here we come to a large tunnel on the beach that leads from the wet sand and this beautiful vista of cumulus clouds. And we'll wander into the dark tunnel and see where it leads. Halo Reach is a very sleekly designed game. I like the development of the Spartans and the weaponry and the design of the aliens, and I just find the aesthetic of Halo Reach to be very sleek, kind of a culmination of Bungie's design work. It feels very competent, and it feels very confident in the vision of what everything should look like. It feels like at this point they really got a handle on, what their world that they made looks like. And of course it's oh, look at that. That's beautiful. The sparse forest, the waterfall, the Forerunner Tower. I think that tower kind of reminds me of the beam emitters from Halo CE. When you first arrive on the Halo ring and you're wandering around trying to save Marines. And this area is called Alaska, this sort of plateau section. I love this flora around here. The red flowers, the sparse trees. You can just feel the air here, it feels like this. It would be this cool, crisp, slightly windy area. Not frigid, not freezing, but brisk and refreshing. And Alaska leads all the way up here. You can follow this whole path and look back down on the island and the Colosseum over there. And I actually don't know, are those little ledges part of Alaska? Let's take a look. These might be the coastline. Oh yeah, here's the coastline. Yeah. Yeah, I like how in this game they added labels to the map areas. It made it, just kind of convenient for call-outs and stuff when you're playing multiplayer. It gives everybody a common vocabulary to use. So you don't just have to say, oh, I'm over by that place where the bridge, goes overhead and there's the little door into that room with the rocket launcher. You can just say, oh, I'm in the storage depot or whatever. So, Alaska comes to this little drop-off here, this chasm, and this area is where I made my masterpiece, my magnum opus forge map. It was a laboratory, sort of a research base that was suspended on the walls here and reached across to both walls of this chasm. But it had come under attack, and so part of it was crumbling into the water below. And so you could descend down to the pieces of the research base that had fallen into the water and were half sunk. And that's where you got the energy sword, if you went down to the very lowest part of the sunken section. Now I'm kind of kidding about it being my masterpiece because I was, pretty young when I made it. So it was no doubt quite amateurish, but it was honestly more of just like an art project or something more. It was for the fun of designing rather than it ever actually becoming a finished, sort of playable map. And this section of the map, this plateau, is called Montana. 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 That's where part of my family line comes from. Montana. My father's side. And this canyon here to our right might look a little familiar at this point, considering we've seen something very much like it in every one of these Halo videos I've done so far. These Halo Maps videos. But we'll come to that in a second. Take our time over here. Get a nice view off Montana, out of the distance. And up here, we can get higher ground. Go into Montana. You ever hear that Frank Zappa song? Gonna make me a big farm of dental floss or something like that. So, all these different areas were, saw use in various Forge maps and custom games and such. And the game released with a handful of pre-made Forge designed maps made by Bungie, just to sort of prove the, the capabilities of the Forge mode, show that you can make some cool maps with them. Got the waterfalls over there. This little rocky pass here. Reach had a wonderful campaign. One of my favorite campaigns. If I were to rank the Halo campaigns, excluding the 343 ones because they're all lower than the Bungie ones, I would say Halo 2 is my favorite campaign, and then Halo Reach below that, and then Halo CE or Halo 3. I think I'll go Halo 3, and then Halo CE, and then ODST at the bottom. I don't dislike ODST by any means. It's a fine game, but I just don't really, put it in the same category as the other games. It was, it was good, but let's drop down here and get a better look at this canyon. And you can see if it looks familiar. Got the ring off in the distance, rising up into the sky. Halo always has such beautiful skyboxes. The horizons are just gorgeous. So, if we take a look now at the canyon here, you can see that, return to battlefield. You can see that it's kind of like Blood Gulch. It's the sort of Blood Gulch of Halo Reach. So now we've had Blood Gulch in every Halo game we've looked at, or at least a spiritual successor at least. Blood Gulch in Halo CE, Coagulation in Halo 2, Valhalla in Halo 3, and now Forge World's Canyon in Halo Reach. Obviously it's, significantly different in many ways, but it's the Blood Gulch of this one. Yeah, Halo Reach's campaign is about a group of Spartans, noble team, as they try to protect the human colony of Reach, the human world of Reach, from a Covenant attack. And in doing so, they end up tying into the story of Halo CE. And here we have this little flooded cavern with a light playing on the ceiling of the cave. Very relaxing. I could just imagine floating on my back in the water, staring at that light playing on the ceiling. Could just doze off. Although that would be quite unsafe. You shouldn't doze off in water. Very dangerous. Don't fall asleep in the bath. I have a brother who does that all the time. We always joke that that's how he's gonna exit the world. Because he'll just fall asleep in the bath and be in there for hours. I don't really think he has narcolepsy, but he falls asleep very easily. I don't think he can get through an entire movie. I don't know the last time he's watched a movie from start to finish, honestly. Every time I watch a movie with him, he falls asleep, inevitably. He gets it from my dad. My dad's the same way. I don't know the last time my dad's ever watched a movie from start to finish. But yeah, that's Forge World. Those are all the major areas. You can go up there onto that little plateau as well. But other than that, I think we've been to every location. Look at that view. Doesn't that just make your soul sing? It's gorgeous. It's very kind of Yosemite, you know. And here we have the map, Spire. Spire. This is a map that was, it's used for the Invasion game mode. And Invasion is my favorite game mode in Halo Reach. I'm just shifting into a bit more of a comfortable position. Relaxing, putting my head back. So, Invasion is a... Oh, you know what? I should read the blurb. Spire's little blurb reads, "Shielding infantry from aerial assault, these massive spires force the Covenant's foes to fight on deadly ground." So you can see that big blue energy dome over the area. And you come to this spot in the campaign during the Tip of the Spear mission. And the object of the mission is to show up and take down this spire. Take down this shield generator. So the invasion game mode is a attack and defense game mode, but it takes place over multiple stages. The attackers have to push through a couple of defensive points and capture them. And then it ends with the attackers having to steal a power core from a fortified position and escape with it to an evac shuttle. So, in this one, it is a team of Spartans attacking the defending elites. Also, I'm playing on Forge here again, so you can see all the little pieces of the map, like all those spawn points and various, kind of gameplay triggers and whatever. All these little holographic symbols hanging around. And the other invasion map is called Boneyard, I believe. And in that one, it is the elites are attacking, and the Spartans have to defend. But as I've said, in relation to like asymmetric map design, my favorite game modes are ones like this that have a sort of an objective type format, with more of a story, I suppose, a little more of just a built-in stakes, To me, Slayer, Team Deathmatch, whatever, it's not super interesting. It's fun, it can be fun, but look at those lights on the ground. Very cool. It can be fun to play, but, it's not super interesting. But once you put something like this in, where it's like, the elites are attacking this fortified position, they're trying to steal a power core, and there's these kind of defensive points that the Spartans are trying to hold, and so on. I find that very, just a lot more engaging. So there's the Spire. It's a very cool structure. And there's numerous ways to get up there. You could hop in a falcon and fly it up. You could take the grav lifts in the tower, or you can do this and fly on the man cannon all the way up and take a little bit of damage when you hit the ground. So you can see the energy emitting from the Spire, spreading out in this large dome. And in the campaign, you come in here to shut down the dome. And then there is a shocking reveal of a Covenant super carrier. And so you go through the next few missions are trying to deal with the super carrier. And that leads to one of the coolest cutscenes in all of Halo for me. At the end of the mission, where you say goodbye to George, and the Covenant reinforcements arrive. The cutscene is so impactful. There's just like the horror and the shock, and you're in a vulnerable state emotionally or whatever because George just died, and so there's all this stuff going on, and then suddenly everything starts falling apart, and this thing that you spent 2 missions trying to destroy now just seems like a single gnat in a whole swarm of enemies. And it's just I don't know, it's a really cool moment. They do a great job at making the fall of Reach impactful in that way. You kind of feel like you're scrapping it out, getting the upper hand, or barely managing to survive, and then suddenly just sheer overwhelming firepower and numbers arrive, and you realize there's just no possible way that you can win. But then the objective shifts, and you end up doing something very impactful. It's a great campaign. Really, really good campaign. Highly recommended. I mean, I'm sure, like, everybody watching this has played it. I mean, I know that's not true. Who knows? But if you clicked on a Halo Reach ASMR video, I guess I figured that you might have already played it. Yeah, this is the toughest part of the invasion game mode, is trying to get the power core out. That little platform back there is where you have to carry it too. That's always the hardest part, because the person carrying the power core can't fight, and they're walking very slowly. But yeah, it's a very fun game mode. I really, really liked Invasion. A ghost, a little Covenant ghost. A warthog, a machine gun warthog. The old reliable warthog. And in the Spire here, this is a grav lift that can take you up all the way to the top. Send a little grenade up there. That was definitely a thing that you would see in this map, is before people would fly up there, they just, throw a couple grenades, try to soften up any enemies that were at the top. Got all these little control panels, holograms, all sorts of Covenant technology. And there's a lower level as well. It's basically just a tunnel, but we'll make our way over there. Invasion was always a lot of fun, but, a lot of players, kind of chaotic. Under the Spire. So here you can ride all the way up. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And you arrive here in the central chamber. And then you can grab the power core and make a run for it. And there's a broken down pipeline there. And I'm falling, and look at that. Gonna use my forge mode powers to save my life. The conveyor belt, this area is called the conveyor belt. Which I this is just a pipeline. Oops. Did you hear my stomach grumbling? It's still going. I gotta stop recording on an empty stomach. And as you saw earlier, those little orange pillars of light or whatever, those you can use to break your fall. That's how you can safely descend from the spire. You jump off, land on one of those little orange lights, and then it blasts you back up into the air a little bit. A little minor grav lift. You can hop up here, circle around, see more spawn points. So yeah, that's Spire. It's a very cool structure. I like how the upper half is suspended in the air. So this is Boardwalk. 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 And its blurb reads, New Alexandria's civilian concourses provide access to rapid transit and views of Reach's serene vistas. And this is a segment from the campaign. It appears on the mission Exodus. Exodus. You fall from space. You land on the ground and you come limping into the city of New Alexandria. And you come to this area first, and you can see there's a war going on in the skies there. Bombs exploding and munitions firing off into the sky. So this is the city of New Alexandria on Reach. And got some falling leaves there. Some falling leaves. And a part of the campaign is, this mission is you just showing up and helping with the evacuation efforts. We've got some water fountains here. If you're thirsty, a little button on the side. Guess they haven't invented hands-free water fountains on Reach. I feel like I'm seeing those more and more when I go to the airport or whatever. You just stick your hand under and try to find the infrared sensor or the motion detector or whatever it is going on in there. I don't know about you guys, but we gotta get back to analog. There's so many touch screens and motion sensors and stuff, and they just don't work as well. You know, they work fine for a while, I'm sure, but you know, you go into a bathroom now that has the hand motion activated sinks, for instance, to turn on the water from the faucet, and you just have to wave your hand back and forth under it for like 5 seconds, and it just, you know, sometimes it says, I'm not going to give you water. Wave your hand around as much as you want. Same with like the soap or whatever, you know, anything in there that demands motion activation just feels like it becomes completely unreliable after a relatively short amount of time. And so now we end up in this place where all the sinks and stuff are just, you know, half of them are useless, I feel like, in some bathrooms I go to. We just need something Just let me hit the little lever, man. Let me hit the lever. You know, as long as everybody's being chill and nobody's like just leaving the lever turned up so that the water never stops running and you know you're flooding the bathroom or whatever. That's okay though. Look, I'm not an engineer, but we can build in something to fix that, right? Like, you push the lever and then it slowly recedes. Oh, you know what? That's not a good idea either, because you have those ones too. Those are actually kind of worse than the motion detected ones. The sinks where the faucet has like a push top. This is how they do it on like airplanes, where you have to push the top of the faucet down. It's like a little depression button, and then it slowly rises back up, but you buy yourself like 3 seconds of water flow, usually with horrible water pressure, and so you have to like constantly be pushing the button back down to get the water to come back out. But then at the same time, you're kind of grossing yourself out because like you're touching this button a lot in a public restroom, which is, you know, nasty. And so you need to clean that hand that pushed the button. So you have to push the button and then quickly pull the hand down into the flow of water and try to scrub some soap on real quick, and then get your hand washed off of all the soap before the water flow stops. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. It's insane. It's insane. But, I mean, I could see that type of thing working if you were just more generous with the water. It should run for like 15 to 20 seconds to give you plenty of time to wash your hand, put the soap on, scrub it off. Okay, 50 to 20 seconds, I guess I just told on myself. What's the public health recommendation? Is like 60 seconds of scrubbing underwater. That's a long time, man. Who's out there washing their hands for 60 seconds? But anyway, I've been ranting about sinks so long I've stopped commenting on the map. I like that cliff face there and how the city, this plaza, is kind of suspended in the air. There's also a maglev train, which is cool. If you're a train guy, I'm not really a train guy. I like trains, but I wouldn't call myself a train guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think trains are cool, and I think that we should have a lot of them because they're awesome. But I'm not a train guy, you know, I don't know trains. So, once you walk down below the plaza, you end up in this kind of lower level. And it's like, I guess the sort of engineering bowels. You've got more grading and, you know, little stations to do who knows what. And garbage bags and stuff. Ventilation. Yeah, like these little things. I don't know what those are, but they look important. Got a bunch of garbage here. What I like about Reach, and kind of going back to what I was saying with Bungie's design of Reach, is, oh, camera, Big Brother is always watching. I like the aesthetic that Bungie developed in Reach of the future human society. It is sci-fi, like it is, something like 200 years in the future. Or is it 400 years? I think Halo takes place in like the 2400s. It's futuristic, but it's not exaggeratedly so. It feels very lived in. It feels very real. It feels very much like what an actual city looks like. It's not a sort of cartoonish depiction of a sci-fi city. So it feels like a very natural world, I guess. It's not trying to impress you. It's just trying to be a functional, livable, comfortable city, So even though the Skyway Cafe, it's not like an insane science fiction world. It feels very grounded. Not that I have a problem with crazy sci-fi, high concept, mind-bending sci-fi. But I really respect how they did human society in Halo. Feels very competently done. Very competently done. Oh man, the music in Halo Reach is just banging. Kinda random. Anyway, this is Reflection. And it is, for my money, maybe the most beautiful map in Halo Reach. So the blurb for this one is: Reach's elite mix business with pleasure, building lavish penthouses atop soaring corporate ivory towers. Ivory towers. That is a reference to the map from Halo 2, Ivory Tower, which this map, Reflection, is a remake of. We can see below to the lower level. I explored Ivory Tower in my Halo 2 maps video. And whereas in Halo 2 it was kind of a minimalist, almost brutalist sort of interior, here it is this lush, warm, welcoming, comfortable environment. It's got all this polished, gleaming wood, shining with light. These round windows, glass, gravel, kind of cool steel and marble surfaces. There's a Zen garden. There's a touch of greenery with some bamboo. There's even a koi pond, which we can take a look at in a bit. There's New Alexandria outside. You visit this area in the campaign mission called New Alexandria. And this is in Synoviet Tower. Synoviet. Sino as in China, and Viet as in Vietnam, presumably. And so, kind of suggests an Asian origin for the owner of this tower, the Synoviet Tower. And There's also Chinese iconography. There are Chinese characters in a couple places, and some dragon iconography and stuff. Here we can see little pieces of the bamboo having fallen here. A little hologram of the planet Reach. The warm light from those light pillars. This is just a gorgeous map, gorgeously designed. I find it absolutely beautiful. Just makes you want to come here and for lunch or something. Yeah, I really can't talk enough about how much I like the Halo Reach design. As I said before, it just feels so confident. It feels like they really just got their hands around the world that they were making. There's the Zen garden. The glass roof, exposing the storm clouds ahead, or above rather. This is a fun map to play multiplayer on. I like how it has this kind of central open area, but it also has lots of cover around there. So even if you get surprised as you're moving through the central area, there's lots of places that you should be able to quickly dive behind cover. This is my personal favorite remake of all of the many Halo multiplayer map remakes. Here we have some art of a dragon. And a little water feature that we will just step through. Some air vents to shoot you up in the air. And you can walk down below here, see a Chinese character. Any of you know what that means? And down there, let's find our way down there. Let's just drop. So there's a lift to send you higher up in the map. That air vent. And then over here, we can see the koi. The koi in the koi pond. Swimming around. And of course, if you're an evil person, you can shoot these guys, but we are not evil people, so we will leave them in peace. And then here, I like this too, because it transitions from that gorgeous front-facing area to the kind of grimier, worker section behind. No more warm lighting, warm wood, but rather this kind of harsh, fluorescent industrial light. Metal and stains. Here we've got some beverages on a table with a pistol in the center. Some art pieces on the wall with what appears to be just the color green. A coat rack. Some pots. Come back in here. There's that little elevator lift. And I didn't look at the sword before, but this is where the sword can be found. If you come out here to the koi pond, the energy sword. And this is where we were earlier when we were looking down. We were right up there. So we'll come back into the dingy back rooms. Here we have a little sitting area with kind of it feels very out of place to have vending machines in this very fancy area. But we've got spade horn bits, moa wings, buffalo buttocks, mule haunch, hammer horn sausages, gray squirrel stew, fried woolly pygmy goat, and mystery meat mash. Yeah, it feels kind of out of place to have these kitschy vending machines in this otherwise very fancy establishment, especially in this room that seems designed for patrons. Here we have a drink machine, the purple concoction, orange soda, bitter brown, red hotness, blueberry blue, green sour, the blackness, and then water, the old reliable water, 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 water. More cameras. Gotta keep the place secure. They're always watching. So we will ride this elevator up to the top and take another look at this gorgeous room. And I think we will end our exploration of Halo Reach maps here. So thank you for joining me, my friend. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.